sects in religious groups today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you sent over this YouTube video, and honestly, some of these beliefs are just wild.
I know, right? Like, where to even begin with some of this stuff?
I'm talking about everything from worshiping famous people to, like, full-on alien intervention.
It really is a buffet of unusual beliefs. It makes you wonder what leads people to these unconventional belief systems.
Exactly. Like, are these groups just expressing their unique views harmlessly, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, good question.
So let's start with this idea of deifying humans.
Okay.
The video talks about this Prince Philip movement in Vanuatu.
I've heard of that.
They believe Prince Philip was like a divine being from their island who would eventually return.
It's actually not as strange as it sounds at first when you think about the cultural context that Vanuatu is in a region where cargo cults emerged after World War II.
Oh, yeah.
And these cults, they often incorporated Western figures and technology into their beliefs. So the idea of a colonial figure like Prince Philip being woven into traditional beliefs, it's not completely out there.
That's a good point. But here's the thing. Prince Philip passed away in 2021.
Oh, right.
What happens now? Does the godhood transfer to his heir, King Charles?
Uh-huh. Good question. It really shows how belief systems aren't static. They can evolve and change over time.
For sure. And then you have groups like the Maradonian Church in Argentina. They worship Diego Maradona.
Wow.
It's like taking fandom to a whole other level.
Really highlights that human tendency to create idols, whether it's celebrities, athletes, or historical figures.
Yeah.
It's like the lines between admiration and religious veneration can blur, especially when those figures hold significant cultural weight.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. The video also delves into groups with extraterrestrial influences.
Okay.
The Nubians, for example. They mix Christianity with ancient Egyptian mythology.
Interesting.
And they believe aliens will eventually intervene in human affairs.
And their connection to Black liberation theology is fascinating. They believe that Black people are God's chosen people, and that white people are meant to serve them.
Oh, wow.
It reflects this desire for empowerment and racial identity that's been central to so many Black liberation movements.
Yeah, complex mix of beliefs and ideologies, for sure.
Yeah.
And they're not the only ones. The video mentions other groups like the Church of All Worlds and the Etheria Society. They also incorporate themes of extraterrestrial contact and spiritual evolution.
It seems like this fascination with the unknown, with finding meaning beyond our earthly realm, is a recurring theme throughout history.
I think you're right. Makes you wonder if it's part of being human seeking answers in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a group that's gotten a lot of attention, both good and bad Scientology.
Okay.
Their belief system is, to put it mildly, unique. They believe in these immortal beings called Thetans,
Right.
who were exiled to Earth by a galactic overlord named Xenu.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
It really does.
But Scientology's appeal, at least in part, lies in its focus on self-improvement and spiritual growth.
Interesting.
It provides this structured path to enlightenment, which can be appealing to people seeking answers and personal transformation.
Yeah.
And, of course, their celebrity endorsements.
Oh, yeah. Having someone like Tom Cruise as a prominent member definitely raises their profile.
For sure.
But there's also a lot of controversy surrounding Scientology,
Right.
especially their stance on traditional psychology.
Scientology rejects psychology. They believe mental health issues come from spiritual imbalances rather than biological or psychological factors. This puts them at odds with mainstream scientific and medical perspectives, contributing to their controversial image.
It's a clash of worldviews, for sure. Now, for something completely different, let's look at the Amish.
Sure.
They're known for rejecting modern technology and embracing a simpler, community-driven way of life. Horse-drawn buggies, plain clothing, and a deep commitment to their faith.
The Amish approach to technology is actually very deliberate. It's not just about rejecting progress. It's a conscious choice to preserve their values and way of life.
That makes sense.
They see technology as a potential threat to their community and their connection to God.
It's like they've created this intentional bubble outside the pressures of the modern world.
Yeah, I like that.
Speaking of intentional communities, let's move on to Mormonism, officially known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
Their story begins in 19th century America with Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon,
Right.
which they believe is a companion to the Bible.
Mormonism's origins during a period of religious revivalism and westward expansion in the United States had a significant impact on its development. It shaped their unique blend of Christian theology and American frontier values.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And they have some distinct beliefs like the idea that Native Americans are descended from a lost tribe of Israel. Plus, there are the sacred undergarments, restrictions on coffee and tea, and historically the practice of polygamy.
Mormonism's views on polygamy have actually evolved quite a bit over time. While it was once a central tenet, the church officially renounced the practice in the late 19th century, reflecting their adaptation to societal norms and desire for wider acceptance.
It's interesting how they've managed to maintain a strong sense of community and identity while navigating those shifts. Now, we need to tread carefully as we venture into darker territory with Ulama Shinrikyo,
Oh, yeah.
a group that blended Buddhism, Hinduism, and apocalyptic prophecies.
Right.
What's particularly chilling is their belief that anyone outside their sect is destined for hell.
Shinrikyo is a stark reminder that religious beliefs, when distorted and mixed with extremist ideologies, can lead to violence and terror. Their sarin gas attacks in Japan were a horrifying example of how a search for spiritual meaning can take a tragic turn.
Yeah, it's scary how that can happen. It's a sobering reminder of the potential dangers lurking beneath the surface of seemingly harmless beliefs. And finally, we have the Rayrelian movement, known for their belief that humans were created by extraterrestrials called Elohim.
I've heard of them.
Their founder, Claude Varelion, who now goes by Rael, claims to have had a close encounter with these beings.
The Raelian movement is an intriguing example of how science fiction and spiritual beliefs can intertwine. They embrace technology, particularly human cloning, as a means to achieve immortality and spiritual evolution.
Wow.
Yeah.
They even have their own interpretations of biblical stories, like Adam and Eve being the first humans created in a lab, and Noah's Ark being a spaceship.
Interesting.
And they advocate for sexual freedom and plan to build an embassy for the Elohim in Jerusalem.
Their unique blend of ancient myths, religious figures, and modern scientific concepts creates a really compelling, albeit unusual narrative.
It makes you wonder what drives this innate human need to explain our origins and place in the universe, even if those explanations seem far-fetched to others.
It's a fundamental human question, isn't it? And it's clear that even in a world saturated with information, people are still searching for answers, often in unconventional places.
Like this desire for certainty and belonging transcends cultural boundaries and historical periods.
Absolutely. And the fact that these groups can thrive in our increasingly connected world shows just how diverse and adaptable human thought and spiritual expression can be. It really challenges our assumptions about what constitutes normal beliefs.
That's a great point. So as we reflect on all these groups, what are some of the common threads that stand out to you?
Well, one recurring theme is this yearning for certainty, for clear answers, in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
Yeah.
These groups offer their members a sense of order, a framework for understanding their place in the grand scheme of things.
That makes sense. And many of them also provide a sense of community, a feeling of belonging to something bigger than themselves.
Exactly. In a world where traditional social structures are breaking down and people are feeling increasingly isolated, these groups offer a powerful sense of connection and shared purpose.
And quite a few of them, like Scientology, emphasize personal growth and transformation. They promise their followers a path to enlightenment, a way to unlock their hidden potential.
That's a powerful draw. Humans are naturally driven to improve themselves, to seek knowledge and self-awareness. These groups tap into that drive by offering a structured system for achieving those goals.
It's interesting how they often weave together elements from different cultures and belief systems, creating these hybrid forms of spirituality.
That speaks to the increasingly globalized nature of our world. Ideas and beliefs are constantly circulating and interacting, leading to new and unexpected combinations.
So what does all of this mean for us as individuals trying to navigate our own beliefs and make sense of the world around us?
I think it highlights the importance of being open-minded, but also critical in our approach to information and beliefs.
Okay.
We should be willing to engage with different perspectives, but also be discerning about the sources of those perspectives and their potential motives.
So be open, but also cautious.
Exactly.
It's easy to get caught up in the sensationalism surrounding these groups, but it's important to remember that there are real people involved. People searching for meaning and connection just like us.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between curiosity and respect, recognizing the human element even in the most unconventional belief systems.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's one key takeaway you hope listeners will walk away with?
I think the most important takeaway is recognizing the power of belief itself. It shapes our perceptions, actions, and understanding of the world. Whether those beliefs are rooted in traditional religion science or something entirely different, they have profound impact on who we are and how we live our lives.
That's a great point. And it makes me wonder, if beliefs are so powerful, how do they evolve and adapt over time?
Well, think about it this way. Our beliefs are constantly being shaped by our personal experiences, cultural shifts, and exposure to new ideas and information. It's like we're all on a lifelong journey of trying to make sense of ourselves and the world around us.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it leads us perfectly into the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some even stranger and more thought-provoking groups from around the world.
Can't wait.
You ready to continue this journey with me?
Absolutely. Let's keep exploring.
All right, sounds good.
You know, it's fascinating how these groups, despite their unusual beliefs, often tap into universal human desires.
Like what?
Well, take the desire for a sense of purpose or belonging.
Oh, okay.
Many of these groups offer a strong community and a clear set of values, which can be incredibly appealing in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain.
Yeah, I see that. And you see that in groups like the Amish, who prioritize community and tradition above all else.
Exactly.
But what about groups that are more focused on individual growth, like Scientology?
Right.
What's their appeal?
Scientology taps into a different but equally powerful desire, the desire for self-improvement and personal power. They offer a structured path to enlightenment, which can be very attractive to people seeking to unlock their full potential.
So it's like different groups are catering to different psychological needs,
Yeah.
even if their beliefs seem outlandish on the surface.
Exactly. And it's not just about the beliefs themselves, but also the way they're presented. Many of these groups have charismatic leaders and compelling narratives that draw people in.
Right, like the Raelian movement, with Claude Vorilhon, now Rael, claiming to have met extraterrestrials. It's like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
Yeah, and that's part of their appeal. They offer a sense of wonder and excitement, a glimpse into a world beyond our everyday experience.
It's interesting how some groups like the Raelians embrace science and technology, while others like the Amish reject it. It's like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to their views on progress.
That tension between tradition and modernity is a recurring theme in many of these groups. It reflects a broader societal debate about the role of technology and its impact on our lives.
And it seems like the internet and social media have only amplified these debates and made it easier for people to connect with like-minded individuals, regardless of how unconventional their beliefs may be.
Absolutely. The internet has created a global marketplace of ideas, and that includes religious and spiritual beliefs. It's easier than ever for groups to spread their message and attract new followers.
So in a way, the rise of these unusual groups is a reflection of the increasing diversity and fragmentation of our worldviews.
I think that's a really insightful observation. We're living in an age of unprecedented choice and customization, and that extends to our spiritual and religious beliefs as well. People are no longer limited to the traditional options.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like we're all creating our own personalized belief systems, drawing from a vast menu of ideas and traditions.
And that can be both exciting and challenging. It allows for greater individual expression, but also raises questions about how we navigate a world where there's no longer a single dominant narrative.
For sure. It definitely makes you rethink the whole concept of what it means to believe in something.
It does. And it forces us to confront our own biases and assumptions about what constitutes a valid or acceptable belief system.
I think that's one of the most important takeaways from this deep dive, the need to be open-minded and respectful of different perspectives, even if we don't agree with them.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the human element in all of these groups. The shared desire for meaning and connection that transcends even the most unconventional beliefs.
Speaking of unconventional beliefs, this YouTube video you shared goes on to highlight some groups that are not only unusual, but also potentially harmful.
That's right. And it's important to acknowledge that while many of these groups are harmless and simply offer alternative ways of seeing the world, some can pose real dangers to their members and to society as a whole.
Like Aum Shinrikyo, which we discussed earlier.
Exactly.
Their blend of apocalyptic prophecies and extremist ideology led to acts of violence and terrorism.
Aum Shinrikyo serves as a chilling reminder that religious beliefs, when distorted and weaponized, can have devastating consequences.
It makes you wonder how we can distinguish between groups that are simply different and those that are genuinely dangerous.
That's a complex question, and there's no easy answer. But one important factor is whether a group promotes violence or hatred towards others.
Okay.
Right? And whether they isolate their members from the outside world and exert undue influence over their lives.
So those are some red flags.
Yes, definitely.
It's crucial to be aware of the signs of cult behavior, such as charismatic leadership, unquestioning obedience and isolation from family and friends.
All very important signs to watch out for.
So while it's important to be open-minded about different belief systems, it's also crucial to be critical and discerning.
Exactly. And to recognize that the line between harmless eccentricity and dangerous fanaticism can be blurry at times.
That's true. This deep dive has been quite a journey so far, hasn't it?
It really has.
From worshiping Prince Philip to awaiting alien saviors, we've covered a lot of ground.
It's amazing how much diversity there is in the world of human belief. It really makes you appreciate the complexity of our species.
And the more we understand about these different belief systems, the better equipped we are to navigate our own beliefs and engage with the world around us.
I couldn't agree more. And it's a reminder that the human search for meaning and belonging is ongoing, and it takes many different forms.
So with that in mind, what are some final thoughts you'd like to leave our listener with as we prepare to wrap up this exploration of strange sects and unusual religious groups?
I think the most important thing is to remember that belief is a powerful force, both for good and for ill. It can inspire incredible acts of kindness and compassion, but it can also lead to division, hatred, and violence. The challenge for all of us is to harness the power of belief for positive change, to create a world where different perspectives are valued and respected, and where we can all find meaning and purpose in our own unique ways.
As we've been talking about all these different groups, I've been thinking about what draws people to these unconventional beliefs.
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, what makes someone join a group that believes in things that seem strange to most of us?
Exactly. Is it like they're looking for something missing in their lives? A deeper sense of belonging or purpose?
I think it's often a mix of things. Some people might be drawn to the community, the feeling of being part of something bigger. Others might be searching for answers to life's big questions or trying to make sense of the world.
Right. And some might be attracted to the idea of a direct connection with a higher power or something supernatural.
That sense of transcendence can be very appealing, especially in a world that can feel so ordinary and materialistic.
It's like these groups offer an escape from the normal, a peek into a world of mystery and possibility.
And don't forget charisma. Many of these groups have leaders who are incredibly persuasive and charismatic.
Yeah, that's true. Like Rael, the founder of the Raelian movement, he claims to have met extraterrestrials and received this message of peace. It's a story that's super intriguing and for some, irresistible.
It reminds us that the human mind is really susceptible to suggestion and belief. We have this desire to believe, even if it doesn't make logical sense.
So how do we as individuals navigate this world of beliefs and make sense of it all? Especially with information true and false coming at us from everywhere.
It's a challenge for sure. I think the key is to be skeptical, but without closing ourselves off to new ideas.
So finding that balance between being open-minded and discerning.
Exactly. Question things, seek evidence, and be wary of claims that seem too good to be true, but be willing to listen to different viewpoints and try to understand where people are coming from.
That's so important, especially now when it's easy to just dismiss anyone who believes differently than us.
It's about recognizing that even if we disagree with someone's beliefs, they're still entitled to hold those beliefs.
Yeah.
And we can engage respectfully and find common ground.
Like that saying, I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Exactly. And you never know, you might even learn something new.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into strange sects and unusual religious groups, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Belief is powerful. It shapes how we see the world, what we do, and ultimately our world. Whether those beliefs are from religion, science, or something else, they have a huge impact on who we are and how we live. So be mindful of the beliefs you choose, question them, explore them, and never stop seeking the truth.
That's a perfect way to end this deep dive. Remember, everyone, the world is vast and mysterious, full of different perspectives and beliefs. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay curious.